This happened a few months ago. I've been driving for Lyft for a few years, and I usually prefer night shifts. The roads are calmer, and the tips are better. But there's a price to pay. Every now and then, you get a story burned into your mind, and not in a good way. I've always considered myself a careful person. I've dealt with more than enough strange passengers, but nothing, and I mean nothing, was as bizarre as what I'm about to tell you. Back then, I didn't have an in-car camera, and that night became the reason I finally bought one. Everything started normally, just me, and the occasional weird noise from my car. I drive a beat-up 2003 Toyota, but it's incredibly durable. The streets were almost completely empty, which, like I said, I actually enjoy. A little after 2 a.m., I got a call from a nearby convenience store. At first, it seemed harmless, but for some reason, I had a strange feeling from the very beginning. You know when you sense something is wrong but can't explain why? It was exactly that. I understood why before I even saw the guy. The store I pulled up to was closed. All the lights were off, and there wasn't a single car in the parking lot. As I got closer, I saw him. I slowed the car down to get a better look. He was outside, pacing in front of the door. He wore an old, filthy hoodie that looked like it hadn't been washed in years. I'm not exaggerating. There was literally a hole in the sleeve. His movements were strange, almost jittery, like he couldn't stay still, and he kept glancing over his shoulder as if someone was following him. He was probably on something. Honestly, I should have canceled the ride and left. My finger was even hovering over the cancel button, but I didn't do it. I don't know why. I unlocked the doors, and the guy got into the back seat without saying a word. I regretted it the moment I took my foot off the brake. Most passengers either look at their phone or stare out the window, but not him. He just stared at me, unblinking, unmoving. I could see his eyes locked on me through the rearview mirror. I tried not to make eye contact, but I caught him doing it several times. His expression had this edge of anger, which made it even more unsettling. I turned on the radio to break the silence. I don't even remember which station I hit, but the moment the music started, he told me loudly to turn it off. His voice was deep and raspy. I could tell he was a heavy smoker. It startled me enough that I jerked the wheel slightly. I avoided looking into the mirror, lowered the volume, and kept driving. I said nothing. He said nothing for a while, at least. I hoped he'd stay quiet until we arrived. Honestly, that was all I wanted. But then he spoke. I remember the conversation like it happened yesterday. He asked me if I'd ever picked up someone I shouldn't have. The question hit me like a brick. I let out this awkward laugh and said, "I hope not." Tried to keep it light, but he didn't react. He leaned back and muttered something under his breath, but I couldn't make out the words. Then he started talking about how he used to be an Uber driver, but had to quit. Said some punks had stolen things from his car. His words were a little slurred, so I didn't catch everything, but I got most of the story. I glanced in the mirror a few times and realized he was smiling while telling it. And the story didn't call for a smile at all. A normal person wouldn't smile telling something like that. He ended the story with this sentence, "It's funny how much you trust someone sitting behind you." That line broke me. I no longer saw him as just some drugged-out guy. I saw him as a real threat, and there wasn't anything I could do. My heart was pounding. I focused hard on the GPS like it was my lifeline. But he didn't stop talking. He rambled about all sorts of things, some disturbing, some completely nonsensical. I couldn't even keep up. At one point, he started apologizing to someone, probably not me. It sounded like he'd done something terrible. "I didn't mean to," he kept saying. I'm sorry, over and over. I couldn't respond. I didn't know what would happen if I did, and I didn't want to find out. We were minutes from the drop-off when suddenly he snapped to attention and yelled that I'd missed a turn. I hadn't. The GPS clearly showed I was on the right path. But out of fear, I hit the brake. He ordered me to pull over. So I did. His hands were shaking. I just wanted the nightmare to end. As soon as I put the car in park, headlights appeared behind us. A police car. I silently thanked every higher power I could think of. The cop slowed down, shining his spotlight on my car. The guy in the back seat sank into the seat, trying to hide. He practically lay flat across the seat, eyes shut tightly. I whipped my head forward and tried to steady my breathing. We sat like that for a long moment. I wanted to tell him to get out, but I couldn't bring myself to speak. Finally, he sat up and said, "You're lucky." Before I could say a word, he opened the door and disappeared into the night. I ended my shift early. I was shaken. I couldn't drive anymore. A few weeks later, I realized how close I'd been to something dangerous when I saw a news report. Apparently, a convenience store had been robbed that night just 2 blocks from where I'd picked him up. Knowing that makes my stomach turn. I had a criminal sitting inches behind me, someone who could have hurt me if he wanted to. I'm a bit afraid to report it to the police. For personal reasons, I prefer not to get involved with them, and I'm not sure it would change anything anyway. But ever since that night, I've been much more careful about who I let into my car.
My name is Simon. This incident happened to me 2 years ago. Our final exams were approaching, and I still had a lot of preparation to do. Normally, our school library would close at 4 in the afternoon, but because of the exams, the school decided to keep it open until midnight so that students could study comfortably if they wanted. My house wasn't far from the school, so instead of studying at home, I preferred studying in the quiet and calm library, and I usually prepared for my exams there. That day, I left home at 6 and soon reached the library to start studying. I was so absorbed in my work that I didn't realize it was already 11 o'clock. I had never stayed in the library that late before. I would normally head home around 8. Even at 8, there would be at least a few students in the library, but at 11, there was complete silence. I only had about 15 to 20 minutes of work left, so I thought I'd finish quickly and then go home. While I was completely focused on my studying, I heard someone walking with a limp. I closed my books and ran out of the library. There is a very long corridor outside the school library. When you reach the end of that corridor and turn right, you'll see the school's exit door. I walked quickly through the corridor toward the exit, and then I saw a woman standing at the end. I didn't know who she was, but as I got closer, I began to feel increasingly uneasy. I felt so uncomfortable that I called out, "Who's there?" The moment I said that, the woman suddenly disappeared. After a few seconds, I took a deep breath and continued out the front door. I could barely walk properly from exhaustion and hunger, but I noticed that the street was strangely empty. This was odd because that street is usually quite busy even at night. Out of panic and fear, I kept my eyes on the ground as I walked. I was almost home when I saw a shadow stretching toward me, yet there was no one around. When I lifted my head, I saw an old woman walking in front of me. She looked very strange. It was as if she were disabled and having trouble walking. She was moving so slowly that I caught up with her quickly. I was now close enough to see her face clearly. She was wearing torn, dirty clothes, and her hands and feet were twisted unnaturally. Her hair was messy and tangled. She looked so strange that I stopped walking. My instincts kept telling me over and over, "Don't go any closer to this woman." I didn't even have the courage to walk past her. At that moment, the woman suddenly turned around and asked me, "Have you seen my daughter?" I froze in shock and couldn't say a word. My mind went blank. I didn't know how to respond. Out of fear, I pointed to a distant direction and said, "Over there. Somewhere over there." I just wanted her to leave. The woman limped toward the direction I pointed, and she walked so far that she eventually disappeared. The thought of her suddenly appearing in front of me again terrified me, so I ran as fast as I could. All I could think about was finding someone, a car, a person, anyone. Then, from far away, I heard the woman scream, "She is here." I remember nothing after that. When I regained consciousness, my neighbor told me he had found me unconscious on the ground and brought me home. From him, I learned that in 1998, there was a 32-year-old woman named Karen. She had a 10-year-old daughter who went to Hampton Park School. One day, while playing with her friends, the girl had an accident and died. Karen couldn't bear the pain of losing her child. Ever since then, her ghost has been seen wandering around Hampton Park School and the surrounding area, searching for her lost daughter. She is still wandering, hoping to be reunited with her child.